$140 million. That's the number. $140 million in Mormon charity money, allegedly funneled to organizations tied to Hamas. That's what the headline said. That's what went viral. And if you're watching this video, that's probably why you're here. But here's the thing about big numbers and big headlines. They're designed to make you feel something before you understand anything. So today we're going to actually understand this. Where the 140 million really came from, where it actually went, who's making the accusation and why, and what the Mormon Church needs to do about it, even though, spoiler alert, it doesn't fund terrorism. I'm Shara Park. This is Mormonism Explained Investigates. Let's go. In January 2026, an organization called the Middle East Forum published a report. Their claim was specific. They said that charities connected to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had transferred $140.6 million to Islamic organizations with documented ties to Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, and other designated terrorist groups. The story moved fast. Amy Meck picked it up. JNS picked it up. Israel 365 News and Rare Foundation, half of conservative Twitter, picked it up. And suddenly, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a church most people associate with missionaries in white shirts and family home evening, was being accused of bankrolling terror. On February 13th, 2026, the church responded. It called the report false. On March 23rd, 2026, the Middle East Forum published a follow-up. Same data, expanded allegations, sharper language. So, who's right? Both of them. And neither of them, because the truth lives in the details that nobody wants to sit with. Let me show you. The 140 million didn't move through a single pipe. It flowed through 3 different channels. Channel 1, Globus Relief, a Salt Lake City charity run by Latter-day Saint members, 119 million. Channel 2, Lifting Hands International, another independent Utah charity also run by Latter-day Saints, 19.5 million. Channel 3, LDS Charities, the church's own official humanitarian arm, 2.1 million. Now, here's what the headline doesn't tell you. Channel 1 and 2, they are not the church. Globus Relief is run by church members, but the church does not control it, does not direct it, does not appoint its board. Same with Lifting Hands International. These are independent American 501c3 charities that happen to have been founded by Latter-day Saints. That is like blaming the Catholic Church for what a Catholic businessman does with his foundation, or blaming the Methodists for whatever a Methodist hospital chooses to fund. So of that 140 million headline, the church's own confirmed direct money is about $2.1 million. That's 1.5%. 1.5. And here's the other thing nobody tells you. Almost all of it across 3 channels was not cash. It was bandages, syringes, surgical gloves, donated pharmaceuticals, surplus hospital equipment, in-kind goods. You can't buy rockets with bandages. And you don't have to take my word for this. It's all public record. Every American nonprofit that gives more than $5,000 to another organization has to report it on IRS Form 990 Schedule 1. And the form requires 2 columns, cash grants and non-cash assistance. Pull Globus Relief's filings. The cash column, almost nothing. The non-cash column, that is where the 119 million lives. Globus Relief's entire business model is collecting surplus medical supplies from American hospitals and redistributing them to charities all over the world. They work with 850 partner charities in 160 countries. Their overhead is under 1%. Now, does the fact that it's medical supplies instead of cash eliminate all risk? No. Supplies have value. They can be resold. They can be seized. Those are legitimate concerns. But the difference between shipping bandages and wiring cash is enormous, and the headlines erased that distinction entirely. Okay, so far so good for the church, but none of this means there aren't real questions to ask, because here's where it gets complicated. Those medical supplies across all 3 channels went to intermediary organizations, legal American charities, 501c3 nonprofits, organizations that file taxes, have offices in U.S. cities, and are not on any U.S. terrorist designation lists. Organizations like Islamic Relief, like Med Global, like Rama Worldwide. But some of those organizations have downstream connections, personnel connections, partner connections to groups that are extremely troubling. Islamic Relief, banned by Israel in 2014, dropped by the U.S. State Department in 2021, linked by multiple Western governments to Muslim Brotherhood networks. Med Global, its founder, Dr. Zaher Zahol, has a documented personal relationship with LDS President Dallin H. Oaks going back to 2012. But Med Global also works directly with Hamas's Ministry of Health in Gaza. Rama Worldwide, according to internal Hamas documents reported in the MEF investigation, its Gazan director was identified as, quote, affiliated with the Hamas movement. So the donations didn't go to Hamas. They went to organizations that went to organizations that have connections to people who have connections to Hamas. That's not the same thing, but it's also not nothing. And there is a specific subset of this that the church has not addressed, and that's the $2.1 million from LDS charities directly to Med Global. $200,000 in 2017, $1.9 million in 2019. That is not Globus Relief's money. That is not Lifting Hands money. That is the church's own humanitarian arm, choosing to fund an organization whose founder publicly references his friendship with the church's senior apostle, an organization that operates through Hamas's Ministry of Health. That is not terrorism. That is a relationship that requires explanation. And so far, the church hasn't given one. Before we go further, we need to talk about the people who built this report, because in journalism, the source matters as much as the claim. The Middle East Forum was founded in 1990 by a man named Daniel Pipes. Pipes is a Harvard-educated historian. He has taught at Chicago, at Harvard, and at the U.S. Naval War College. He has served in 5 U.S. administrations. President George W. Bush gave him a recess appointment to the U.S. Institute of Peace, and an appointment that was so contested that Senate Democrats tried to block it. MEF runs several projects. Campus Watch, which monitors what it sees as bias in Middle East studies programs at American universities. Islamist Watch, which investigates what MEF calls lawful Islamism, meaning organizations that are technically legal, but MEF believes advance Islamic political goals. And the Israel Victory Project, which advocates for ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, not through negotiation, but through Palestinian capitulation. That last one tells you something important about where MEF sits. So let me give you the credibility case and the criticism case side by side because they're both real. On the credibility side, MEF has won every major legal challenge brought against it. A federal judge dismissed claims by the South Florida Muslim Federation twice. MEF's research has been cited by Congress. Its legal project successfully defended critics from a defamation suit by the National Iranian American Council, and the council was ordered to pay $183,000 in legal fees. And this matters. MEF uses publicly verified data, IRS filings, government records, published news reports. You can check their work. On the criticism side, Georgetown University's Bridge Initiative places MEF squarely in what it calls the Islamophobia network. The Southern Poverty Law Center and Center for American Progress have published similar critiques. Daniel Pipes himself in 1990 wrote things about Muslim immigrants that are indefensible by modern standard. MEF funded the legal defense and release of Tommy Robinson, the British far-right activist. MEF's writings were cited in the manifesto of Anders Breivik. MEF is not responsible for Breivik, but the citation tells you who finds their material useful. And the Council on American Islamic Relations considers MEF a core driver of anti-Muslim prejudice in the United States. So what do we do with that? We do what journalists are supposed to do. We separate the data from the framing. The IRS filings are real. The government designations are real. That data stands on its own merits. But calling the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints a, quote, top benefactor of Islamist extremism, that is not data. That is framing. And it's doing a lot more work than the evidence actually supports. Now, I need to introduce you to a man named Muhammad El-Halabi, because his story changes how you should think about every charity operating in Gaza, not just the Mormon ones. Halabi worked for World Vision. World Vision is a Christian humanitarian organization, $3.5 billion in annual revenue, tens of thousands of employees, one of the most respected aid agencies on earth. For 11 years, Halabi was their director of operations in Gaza. He oversaw food distribution, medical programs, children's services. By every outward measure, he was doing sacred work. He was also working for Hamas. An Israeli court convicted him in 2022 of diverting tens of millions of dollars to the terrorist organization. And in 2025, Hamas traded him back in a hostage exchange. You don't trade hostages for innocent people. Here's why this matters for the Mormon Church story. If World Vision, with billions of dollars, decades of experience in Gaza, and entire departments of auditors could be infiltrated and exploited by Hamas, then nobody operating in Gaza is immune. Nobody. And here's the part that almost nobody who writes about Mormon money going to Hamas seems to understand. Hamas is not just a militia, it's a government. Since 2007, Hamas has controlled every functioning institution inside Gaza. The Ministry of Health? Hamas runs it. The Ministry of Education? Hamas. Social welfare? Hamas. Border crossing, tax collection, sewage, electricity? Hamas. So when the Middle East Forum says MedGlobal works with the Ministry of Health in Gaza, yes, that's true. But there is no non-Hamas Ministry of Health. If you want to vaccinate children in Gaza, you coordinate with Hamas's Ministry of Health. If you want to deliver surgical supplies, you go through Hamas's health ministry. If you want to feed 2 million civilians during a war, you cross Hamas's controlled checkpoints. Every organization delivering aid in Gaza operates under this constraint. The United Nations, the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, Catholic Relief Services, World Central Kitchen, Lutheran World Relief, even direct U.S. government humanitarian aid. Every single one. This is not a Mormon problem. This is a structural problem, and it has no clean solution. Organizations operating in Gaza face a binary choice. Option A, refuse to work in the territory at all, leave 2 million civilians without food, medicine, or clean water. Option B, operate within the Hamas-controlled system. Accept that some level of risk and friction with Hamas infrastructure is unavoidable. And do your best to deliver aid to the people who actually need it. There is no option C. And this is interesting. Israel 365 News, the same outlet that originally amplified the MEF investigation, acknowledges this in a follow-up article. They called it the impossible dilemma. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints chose option B. The UN chose option B. World Vision chose option B. Every Christian denomination operating in Gaza for the last 2 decades chose option B. The question isn't whether the church made this choice. The question is whether the church made it wisely, with adequate safeguards, with enough transparency for its members to evaluate. So let's look at what the church actually said. On February 13, 2026, the Church Newsroom published a statement. It condemned terrorism. Check. It pointed out that the independent charities are not church-controlled. Check. It said church direct aid is project-specific and largely in kind. Check. All true. But what the church did not say is just as revealing. It did not address the MedGlobal relationship. It did not address the documented personal connection between MedGlobal's founder and President Oaks. It did not address the Rama Worldwide Partnership that continued after October 7th. It did not name the 2 independent charities that accounted for 98% of the headline figure. And it offered 0 specific transparency measures going forward. The Middle East Forum, in its follow-up, made a sharp point about this. They said the church's response mirrors how World Vision responded right before its Gaza director was convicted of diverting tens of millions of dollars to Hamas. That comparison is not fair on the substance. World Vision had an embedded operative running their Gaza office. The church has legal intermediaries with downstream concerns. Those are not the same situation. But the playbook, blanket denial, no specifics, trust us, that playbook is identical. And it creates a vulnerability the church doesn't need. Here's something the Middle East Forum's report leaves out completely. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has one of the longest institutional ties to Israel of any Christian denomination on the planet. In 1841, 50 years before the founding of modern Zionism, LDS Apostle Orson Hyde traveled to Jerusalem and dedicated the land for the return of the Jewish people. In the 1890s, the church donated land in Salt Lake City for Utah's first synagogue. Beginning in 1968, BYU ran a Jerusalem study abroad program. And in the 1980s, the church invested more than $50 million to build a campus on Mount Scopus overlooking the old city of Jerusalem. That construction was contested, and in support of the church, 154 members of the United States Congress wrote to the Israeli parliament urging that the project be allowed to proceed. The Anti-Defamation League sided with the church. B'nai B'rith sided with the church. Does that sound like an organization that wants to fund Hamas? It does not. And anyone telling you otherwise is selling you something other than the truth. So, let's answer the question this video opened with. Does the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints support terrorist groups like Hamas? No. Did Mormon-affiliated charities ship medical supplies to intermediaries with troubling downstream connections? Yes. The IRS data confirms it. Did the church itself fund Med Global, an organization with direct working relationships with Hamas's Ministry of Hell, run by a man who publicly references his friendship with the church's senior apostle? Yes, $2.1 million between 2017 and 2019. Did the church exercise adequate vetting and oversight of these partnerships? That's unclear, because the church has not yet been transparent enough for anyone outside the institution to verify. Should the church be more transparent with its donations? Absolutely. Now we get to the part nobody else is doing. Not the attackers, not the defenders. What should actually happen next? First, credit where it's due. The church's humanitarian instinct is correct. Feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, healing the sick, regardless of nationality or religion or who governs the territory. That is Christ-like, full stop. The emphasis on in-kind donations rather than cash shows real awareness of diversion risk. The project-specific framework with legal intermediaries is broadly the right model. And $1.45 billion in total LDS humanitarian spending in 2024 is real, life-saving, kingdom of God work. But the response to these allegations was a missed opportunity. Because when you have 17 million members who contribute tithing in faith, you owe them more than trust us. Here's what we think the church should do. Not because we're critics, because we think this is a church that can lead. Number one, publish a complete list of LDS charities, humanitarian partners in conflict zones. Transparency is the most powerful answer to every one of these allegations. Number two, commission an independent third-party audit of Middle East operations, not an internal review, an external published verifiable audit by a recognized firm. Number three, address the Med Global and Rama Worldwide relationships specifically. Explain the nature of those partnerships, the safeguards in place, and whether they will continue. Number four, implement and publish enhanced vetting protocols for all intermediary partners, including regular downstream connection reviews. Number five, engage. When legitimate questions arise, even from sources with their own ideological agendas, engage with the specifics rather than the framing. The church learned this lesson once before with the Gospel Topics essays. Transparency served faith. The same principle applies here. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not a supporter of terrorism, but it has a transparency problem. And in a world where information moves faster than institutions can respond, transparency isn't just good governance, it's self-defense. This is a church that sent an apostle to dedicate Jerusalem 185 years ago, that built a campus overlooking the old city, that ships millions of dollars of medical supplies to suffering people without asking their religion first. This is a church that can lead on this. It should lead on this. And its 17 million members deserve to know that it will. I'm Shara Park. This has been Mormonism Explained Investigates. Thanks for watching, and keep asking the hard questions. That's what we're here for.